Here last Sunday, so we're going to go back just a smidgen so we can get back into the flow of what's going on here. We are still studying in the Kings. We're coming real close to the end of studying the King of Israel. That is the kingdom of Israel, not the nation. Anyway, turn to 2 Kings chapter 15, and we'll start with verse 23 and read through verse 32. Verse 23, in the 50th year of Azariah, king of Judah. Now, Azariah is also known as Uzziah, king of Judah. Pekahiah, the son of Menahem, began to reign over Israel in Samaria and reigned 2 years. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. But Pekah, the son of Ramaliah, a captain of his, conspired against him and smote him in Samaria in the palace of the king's house with Argob and Ariah, and with him 50 men of the Gileadites, and he killed him and reigned in his room. And when the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. And I want to stop there for a moment. Pekahiah, he's one of them guys that has no claim to the crown. His father got the crown by murder, and of course he was king. He was the son of the guy that claimed to be king of Israel. Now, his reign was 2 years? That's not very long. Most kings usually last a little bit longer than that, but unfortunately for him, there was a guy named Pekah, and he wanted to be the king the same way as Pekahiah's father did. So he got him a bunch together, and they didn't wait to kill him out in the open like Menahem's did, but they killed him right in his own house, in the king's palace. So I don't know if you remember the woman that claimed, I don't know whether she claimed to be queen or whatever it was. The Bible doesn't call her queen ever. It said that she reigned, Athaliah. And she was in the temple, and they took her out. They got her out of there, and they took her to the stables, and that's where they killed her. They didn't want any of her blood, any of the blood shed in the temple and none in the palace. So she was killed in the stable. So there was at least some respect to the position there, even though she had no claim to it either. Just like these guys here. None of these guys had any claim to it. But anyway, anymore, they just didn't care. Whoever they were at the time, in the king's palace, well, okay, we'll rub him out. Anyway, in verse 26, and it says, the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Now, nothing there. So, probably it was done, they wrote down just about everything the kings did back then, and it wasn't canon. It wasn't what the Lord wanted in his book. So, it's not. In verse 27, in the 52nd year of Azariah, king of Judah. Now, Azariah is also known as Uzziah, And you remember we buried him a couple of 3 Sundays ago, but we got to dig him up because we're still doing the Chronicle thing here, things in order. Anyway, it says, began to reign over Israel in Samaria and reigned 20 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel-Beth-Machaiah, and Genoa, and Kadesh, and Hazor, and Gilead, and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. Now, obviously, he didn't take the cities back, he took the people back. So, what happens next? Well, apparently, he did enough evil, and this next guy coming up, he's thinking, well, I can't do no worse than that. Or maybe he just wanted a position, I don't know. In verse 30, and Hoshea, the son of Elah. Now, Elah, if you remember, was the name of one of the people way back yonder. Now, somebody said that, I can't remember where I read it. It was in some concordance or something, a long time ago, that this could be talking about the lineage of Elah. Like many people are called a son of David, and they're not his direct son, but in his lineage. I don't think it means that here. But anyway, I think he was the son of a man named Elah who is not talked about. We don't know anything else about it. Anyway, he made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and smote him and slew him, and reigned in his stead in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. So now we understand that Uzziah is dead. We've got that. Now, Jotham is his son, and he is reigning in Judah. Jotham is who we're going to be studying about today. And anyway, it's in the 20th year of Jotham was when Hoshea began to reign in Israel. And the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Again, not much. So, anyway, now we get to turn the page, and we start on today's lesson. In verse 32, in the 2nd year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, began Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, to reign. So you remember Uzziah reigned for 52 years. He had a nice long reign. I think that's the longest of any of the kings so far. I could be wrong on that. I'm doing that off the top of my head. But anyway, he began to reign, and verse 33, 25 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Now, there used to be a little book. I don't know if you ever heard of it. The name of it is Quack Went Jerusha. And this is a different Jerusha. This isn't that one. It was a story about a little duck. And my mom she couldn't say Jerusha for some reason. So she called the little duck Jerushua. And so therefore, when I'm talking about that book, I say Jerushua. But anyway, she's not mentioned anywhere else again in the Bible. And a lot of these times like that, that's the way it is. They're mentioned one time and that's it. So, what about him? What about Jotham? Verse 34, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. He did according to all that his father Uzziah had done. Now, there's a little asterisk there. You remember Uzziah went in the temple to burn incense where he wasn't supposed to. Uzziah was a good king. He had a long reign. But he did something wrong. And it cost him. Anyway, he did all the good things according to what his father did. But, verse 35, howbeit the high places were not removed. The people sacrificed and burned incense still in the high places. So, he had the opportunity here, and it's nothing special on him because every one of the other kings, it was the same thing. Even the ones that were good kings, which Jotham is going to be one of the better ones. They didn't do away with the high places. Now, again, I mentioned this probably several kings before, but since we're kind of trying to catch up a little bit here, the high places were initially used to worship God. They were okay at one time, but they have the temple now. That is where they are supposed to be. Now, the church is not the temple. Don't get that from what I'm about to say. But this is where we need to be. The Bible says to him be glory in the churches. So we need to be in God's church, in his house, anytime that we can when the doors are open. And maybe sometimes when the doors ain't open, we can come over here and maybe run the sweeper or something like that. I don't know. And there's been times when we were going to have a revival meeting. And we would come over, and for 24 hours before the start of the revival, there was always a man here to keep praying and studying before we started the revival meeting. We probably can't do that now. We just don't have enough people right now. But we can pray at home. And I think we got a Bible conference coming up in less than a month. Brother Cool just mentioned again this morning. So we need to be in prayer a whole lot about that. That's a special meeting. We're going to have lots of different preachers here and people from other churches. Hopefully, going to have most of our members here. That would be nice, but we need to remember these things. Anyway, howbeit the high places were not removed. The people sacrificed and burnt incense still in the high places. In the last part of verse 35, he built the higher gate of the house of the Lord. Now, the higher gate is one that has got a lot of things going on here, and the higher gate has many different names. It is known in other places as the high gate, the new gate, the king's gate, the east gate. They're all the same one. Now, he also, Turn to 2 Chronicles. I think we're done in 2 Kings for the day. Turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 27. Verses 1 and 2 here. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah did. Howbeit, he entered not into the temple of the Lord, and the people did yet corruptly. So this tells you, well, he didn't go into the temple and try to burn incense like his father did. His father was trying to take up authority and a position that he was not supposed to be. And Brother McCool mentioned, well, I don't know if he mentioned or if me and him just talked about it, but we talked about the position of the priest. The high priest was basically, in spiritual matters, as powerful as the king was in secular matters. So there wasn't a whole lot of difference. And you might think, well, what does it matter? Well, God is a particular God. He tells you how to do things. His book through and through tells you how to live your life. He tells you what to do. And okay, let's say there's something that, in particular that it doesn't mention. Well, then you go, you get down on your knees and you pray about it. And he'll tell you what to do that way. But the king was never supposed to go into the holy place and offer incense. That was never to happen. And that's what caused Uzziah's, I won't say downfall, because he still reigned for a bit after that. He had some major problems. But anyway, Jotham didn't do that. But even seeing the king, Jotham's a great king, good king. So far, he's done everything right. Except he hasn't done away with the high places, and the people did yet corruptly. Now, I've mentioned several times, that we need to have a good leader. A good leader people will follow. But, you can't follow a person exactly, a man. We don't follow a man. We follow after God. Our Savior is God the Son. And we need to follow Him. We need to do, Brother Pete last night, he preached about Christ being a preacher. Pretty high calling, isn't it, brother? Anyway, the people, they weren't following after what the Lord wanted. They were following what they saw. And what they saw was a man who was good. He was a good man, a good king, everything like that. But he didn't do everything that he was supposed to do. And the people did yet corruptly. Verse 3, he built the high gate of the house of the Lord, and on the wall of Ophel he built much. Now, again, we go to the high gate, or the east gate, or the king's gate, and what other kind of gate is there? New gate. Yeah, I forgot the new gate. And if you want to study any on that, and it's not anything particular, it's just a rabbit I chased when I was studying for this. Anyway, and on the wall of Ophel he built much. Now, again, there's another thing I read a while ago, a long while ago, and I couldn't find it again. Was this the 600 feet or the 400 cubits that was torn down of the wall. Well, first of all, it can't be, despite what this guy said, because the temple wasn't that big. And the second part of it is this was the wall to the city. The corner gate and the wall, the 600 feet of the wall were torn down. This is, he's not rebuilding the wall or anything like that. He's building much of the wall of Ophel, and according to what I have been able to understand about it, this goes between the temple and the king's palace. I don't know the how far apart they were or anything like that. I knew they were in proximity to one another because they walked to and fro from one to the other. In verse 4, moreover, he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and in the forest he built castles and towers. Now, he's doing a little bit more like what his dad did. You know, remember Uzziah? He built 45 cities, and this is what he's doing. And you build something. If you're going to build a city, and you got enemies all around you, what do? Do you build them down in the valley, or you put them up in the mountains where you have the high ground? You put them on the high ground. And that's what he's doing here. And they built castles or fortified buildings and towers so you can see out. Now, this isn't just for military purposes either. I mean, you can watch over your sheep better that way. Your cattle, whatever you're watching after. But I think a lot of it was due to the fact that, they were surrounded by enemies. Even their friends were enemies. Verse 5, he fought also with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed against them. And the children of Ammon gave him the same year 100 talents of silver, and 10,000 measures of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. So much did the children of Ammon pay unto him, both the second year and the third. So, Ammon was a people that were subdued by David a long time ago. And they were trying to see, well, here's a new guy, 25 years old, let's see what we can do. And of course, he prevailed against them because he was following the Lord. The Lord gave them to him. So they had to give him the same year 100 talents of silver. Now, at one time I would have went through and figured out how much money this is, but let's just say it was a gob of money. It was a lot of money. And 10,000 measures of wheat. Now, the 10,000 measures of wheat and 10,000 measures of barley, this is a lot. Now, it's called a homer, or omer. I don't know whether the H is silent or not, is the unit measure they use for wheat. And I understand that was supposed to be, according to Brother Gill, 45 gallons. And that didn't kind of ring true to my ears for some reason or another, and I remembered then. Brother Gill is an Englishman. Imperial gallons are 1.2 U.S. gallons. We have barrels that are 55 gallons. Guess how many imperial gallons a 55-gallon drum holds? 45 gallons. So basically, you can figure it out in your own mind by looking at a 55-gallon drum. That's how much that they had there. And they had 10,000 omers of wheat and 10,000 omers of barley. And they did this every year. Second year, third year. I don't know if it went on after that. Apparently so. It just kept on going. So Jotham became mighty. Now you remember what happened to Uzziah when he became mighty, when he became strong. He was strong until he wasn't. The Lord punished him because he did things that he shouldn't do. So Jotham became mighty, but there's no but here. Because he prepared his ways before the Lord his God. You want to be mighty? Do things the way the Lord tells you to do them. Yeah, we have people, how to win friends and influence people. I always want to laugh when I hear that, You get one of God's books out and you go reading it, and it doesn't say how to win friends and influence people. It says people are going to hate you if you read this. And they do. People that are your own family are going to treat you like you stink. But he became mighty because he prepared his ways before the Lord his God. And he didn't do it half-hearted either. Anyway, verse 7, and the rest of the acts of Jotham, and all his wars and his ways, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz his son reigned in his stead. Now, I probably got a couple minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and stop because I don't want to start on Ahaz yet. We're going to start probably not next Sunday, but Sunday after that. We're going to see the end of the kingdom of Israel. And Judah goes on for a pretty good while. But anyway, if you want to study ahead on this, it's okay. It's really interesting. There's a lot to find out about this. Anyway, everybody kind of stay tuned. Anybody that's at home, the pastor's got a great message coming up. And he chopped my head off on the phone.
Did I? You must have stood up straight after I fixed it.
Well, I might have got some of my head in there sometimes.
Well, at least it's on your lips moving, right?